everybody. My name is Brian Pointer, and I'm chair of the Natural Resources Commission. It's so nice to see people on this nasty looking Tuesday morning, but I appreciate everybody. A lot of changes, and we have a nice agenda today. I welcome a new proxy. Deb, nice to have you here with us. Tell us about yourself.
I'm attorney at INDOT, also serve as the ethics officer. Been with INDOT year and a half. Been a practicing attorney 30 some odd years.
Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And I understand, are you serving on the AOPA committee too?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for doing that. So the meeting is called to order, and with that, I will ask for the minutes which have been sent out. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as they were sent?
So moved.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Alan, I turn to you as the director of the department.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. I was asked if I brought my oars. I did not, but I do believe that the Durango floats pretty good on water because on my way over on I-70 this morning, I hydroplaned a couple times, that's for sure. So I'm glad that we all made it in one piece. Hold on one second. I'd like to talk about a couple personnel changes that we made here over the last time we met was in March. We've had a couple new faces. First one is Greg Sorrells. Greg, would you mind introducing yourself?
Greg Sorrells, Deputy Director of Administration.
Yep. So the previous CFO, Mike Smith, decided to step down, and Mike did a great job for us, and his role over a couple different stints, and we certainly appreciated his time, and Greg has done a great job for us. We also had the retirement of Dan Bortner, and we certainly appreciate his 20 years of service to the DNR, but we will continue to move on, and we always have great people in the DNR, and now we have Bront stepping in. Bront, would you mind introducing yourself?
Deputy Director of Operations for the State Parks and Interim Director.
Yep. Bront will be our interim, and for both of these positions, we're going to go through a full process of searching for our full-time employee there, and I know for a fact that we have a lot of good internal candidates, and I'm sure that we'll have some people from external sources as well. So we'll have some new faces or the same faces here over the summer. A little bit later, we're going to have Will Haynes step up and give us a legislative update on how the previous 4 months went. So I won't steal any of his thunder, but our team grinded until the end, to say the least. And I think that as an agency, we got as much out of the session as we possibly could have. It was definitely a challenging session, unless you weren't paying any attention to what was going on at the State House, and if you don't, I totally understand that. But we definitely have some budget some budget tightening that has gone on throughout the state, and that has affected every agency, and certainly the DNR. We are not immune from that. But from these challenges arise opportunities, and a lot of times those opportunities are then ways to decide and figure out new efficiencies. And I think that you'll see that from our team at the DNR. We have a great team that works hard and has over the last few months been navigating exactly how we will continue to provide excellent top-rated service to our customers who use all of our properties, and continue to help them make the lifelong memories that they all do when they come to our properties. Speaking of properties, one of the things that I shared with you last time that we spoke and that we met here was, some of my property tours and visits and kind of what our goal as an executive team was, and that's continued. I think a couple of the highlights is Busseron Fish and Wildlife area. It's over in my home part of the state, West Central Indiana, in Sullivan County, and Busseron is a 3,950 acre fish and wildlife area now, and it had been under DNR control for a good number of decades, and in the last 10 years or so, it kind of the lease had come up, and through partnership with a handful of other excuse me, land conservationists and other foundations and Crane, we were able to put that back online, and it is a great asset for the state of Indiana and for the DNR for sure. We were able to go up and visit Potato Creek, the lodge that is being constructed up there, and it's certainly coming right along. It's a huge project. Currently, they've got the foundation on the either end of it finished, and which will be kind of like 2 basement areas, and we'll start building up here before we know it, and especially once we get a good run of nice weather here this summer. That's going to start taking shape pretty quick, and within 2 years we should have our newest lodge up online and greeting guests from all over the country. We had a chance to go down to Brookville Lake and squeeze fish. I don't know if anybody in here has ever squeezed any fish, but it's quite a process to watch how, again, our DNR team members help part of the process of putting 27 million fish into our waterways on an annual basis, and it all starts with catching the fish and harvesting the eggs and inseminating them and becoming taking those to the hatchery, and then watching those become little fish, and they move on up, and that's what so many people when they're out on our waterways and are enjoying the outdoors and fishing. It all starts from our DNR folks who make that process happen. So it was great to see that.
They still use a Tupperware bowl.
They do. Yep.
And a turkey feather.
And a turkey feather. Yeah. Yeah. The eggs are so delicate that if you stirred it with anything other than a turkey feather, it would damage them. So it's a pretty neat process. So I'm assuming the guys wouldn't lie to me. They said I probably have a hand in creating the next state record walleye. So I was happy about that. We've been down to Redbird and Interlake, and if you've never been to those properties, that's something else. Obviously we've got beautiful state parks and state forests, and then we've got 2 that are beautiful, but they're for a little bit different purpose, and that's for off-road vehicles. And I'll tell you what, that's Chris and I bounced around at Interlake for about 3.5 hours one day, and seeing that whole property is amazing. Talking with the property managers and assistant manager John and Joe was great, and it's what an asset that our state has and our DNR has that we have to offer folks. Went to Mount T and watched a control burn. Jack Seifert and his team. That you talk about professionals and just knowledgeable, and the way that they go about doing one of those controlled burns was really something to see. It was 200 acres and on one part of it, and we went back here a couple weeks ago, and you can see the before and after. It's starting to green back up, but compared to the side that was not did not have a control burn, the difference in the underbrush, which is mostly invasives, compared to the side that was not control burn is shocking. And so you kind of see what our forest should look like compared to what it does when it has all the invasives and everything in it. It's pretty amazing. I've had a chance to visit Clifty Falls. I had never been down in Madison, and what a beautiful town, first of all, and beautiful setting. But Clifty Falls is, in my opinion, one of our most beautiful parks, obviously with the falls and everything it has to offer. It's just another great asset to the state, and just a beautiful example of what southern Indiana is. And then also had a chance to run by Mounds and Summit Lake, and again, 2 very unique areas in the state. And the Mounds are pretty interesting. You stand there and wonder, why the heck did people 2,000 years ago plus build these? And I guess the answer is, if you don't know the true answer, you just say, well, I guess it was probably for religious reasons, and that will probably suffice. This past weekend, Saturday, I was down at Brown County to the Horseman's Camp to look to view the damage from the tornado that went through there. We're still fighting back and building back from what happened at McCormick's a couple years ago, and now to have another one hit us is certainly sobering and not what anybody involved would like to have seen. But I think the positive that can come out of this is that we do know how to move forward from this, and we've got a team of people that is already putting great plans together. I was just talking with Bront about some options that we have, and Chris Smith has been absolutely great on keeping the communication lines open for everybody and letting us know what's going on. Holly and her team has done great on the communication side of it, and you can rest assured that as we move forward and figure out our timeline and pathway, one, it'll be communicated clearly, and two, we'll do everything we can to get that campground back up and running as quickly as we can. And that it won't be overnight, but it will be done correctly and safely, and we will come back just as strong or stronger. So
just the Horseman's Camp or the actual campground?
just the Horseman's Camp, yeah. And then there's some other used areas of the park I'd call, that don't have necessarily have trails or anything like that in it. But definitely, it's a lot of damage. The power that is in those tornadoes is pretty unbelievable. So there's a lot of work to do down there. So our busy season is ramping up. This past weekend was definitely an example of that. There was a lot of activity throughout our properties, and it's great to see and hear that people are coming out and taking advantage of some of the most beautiful parts of Indiana, and we're all extremely happy to be there to help facilitate that. So with that being said, I'll move it on, but thank you all very much for being here, and look forward to talking to you or answering any questions.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Appreciate it. A lot going on.
Yeah.
Is Deputy Director Ryan, is someone doing his report?
So I will be taking his.
You get both of them.
I get both of them.
There you go.
Unfortunately, he didn't have but 3 screws in a tire. So
Oh, boy.
He's getting a new tire this
We
morning.
turn to Deputy Director Chris
All
Smith.
right. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start with Ryan's stuff. Since January 1st, the Division of Entomology and Plant Pathology staff have removed over 20,000 spotted lanternfly egg masses in several counties across the state. Egg masses contain approximately 40 eggs each, so over 800,000 eggs have been destroyed. Spotted lanternfly, just for a reminder, is detrimental to several different plant species across the state, including vineyards, orchards, and hardwood forests. On April 21st, Governor Braun signed an executive order number 25-63 that directs the completion of a statewide water inventory and management plan. This effort builds on the regional studies conducted by the Indiana Finance Authority and includes the development of a statewide planning framework and recommendations for expanding Indiana's water monitoring network and a development of an online water hub. Input from all water user sectors and the public will be sought, with the final report being delivered at the end of 2026. Finally, from Ryan, DNR's communication team has developed a web forum where you can sign up for updates if you're interested in following this process along throughout its development. From my side of the shop, Mr. Chairman, in addition to the recovery efforts at Brown County, staff are taking the final steps in preparation for Memorial Day weekend, kind of the unofficial kickoff to the recreation season. Most of our campgrounds will be full or nearly full. Swimming pools will all open and we'll be in full gear. But kind of as Director Morrison said, I think we had a preview of that over the past weekend. I know our staff and Colonel Hunter's staff in Division of Law Enforcement were all over the place last weekend with the good weather and visitors throughout the state. Last Friday, the Lincoln Amphitheater kicked off its 38th season with several upgrades, including expanded seating. The historic amphitheater is located within Lincoln State Park and has undergone some significant transformations over the past 3 years, expanding its seating capacity from 1,500 to 2,200. Over the multi-year process, it included a new patrons entrance, a renovation of the parking lot, including 300 additional spaces, some new viewing platforms to kind of allow people to get out of their seat and view from a different vantage, and then the addition of the new open-air seating areas. So we invite everybody to make a trip down and enjoy an evening at this beautiful setting and the 2025 season lineup, and tickets are all available via the website, lincolnamphitheater.com. Director Morrison mentioned a trip down to Interlake State Riding Area. We were just a little bit early, but the first week of the month, Ford Motor Company was on site at Interlake to announce the release of the newest version of the Ford Expedition. They hosted press from around the country, put them in the vehicles and put them through their workout on the off-road vehicle trails there at the property. I think they had probably over 20 different vehicles there, and sounds like a really good job, except for the one guy whose job it was to wash them all before they went back out. He was the dishwasher in the back of the kitchen, basically. He just had a stack of vehicles stacked up ready to wash. Hopefully they let him go at the end of the week and put a little dirt on something. The Natural Resources Foundation was the beneficiary of a $10,000 grant from Star Financial Bank, and that was targeted to the Discover the Outdoors field trip program, offered in partnership with state parks. The Discover the Outdoors program encourages educators from K through 12 to take students on field trips at an Indiana state park. Since 2013, a total of 287 grants have been awarded, and over 25,000 students have completed a field trip at one of our state parks. These sub-grants are to cover the costs associated with the school's transportation, program fees, and any other applicable materials to make it easier for them to get out and see us and learn more about what we do. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, every year we have more than 12,000 volunteers across the state that contribute countless hours to the department and department's properties. During the National Volunteer Week, April 20th through 26th, we took the opportunity to recognize several of those volunteers and really appreciate the work that they put in. We are blessed to have so many people who are dedicating their time and expertise to make our properties function properly, and to find out how you can be a volunteer. You can jump on the website at in.gov/DNR volunteers or contact your local property, and they will no doubt point you in the right direction. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will return it to you.
Appreciate that. Thank you for covering for Ryan as well. Greg, it's nice to have you here, our Deputy Director Interim. Thanks for being here. You've worn so many hats over the years. Nice to have you back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The governor has now signed what we'll call the as-passed version of the 26-27 budget. The budget includes a 50% reduction in the general fund portion of our budget, which is about $3.2 million annually. We also are awaiting final word on reserves and the new statewide preventive maintenance plan and capital projects. Last week we had a
Can you
town
move the microphone
financial.
a little closer to you, please? Thanks.
Last week we had a financial town hall meeting, and Lisa Hirschman, the OMB director, sort of laid out the revenue forecast. And 2025 will be down about $400 million. So we're working through those to have a spending plan for the remainder of 25. On a positive note, DNR has proposed some capital projects that will be moving forward, hopefully at the June Budget Committee. The Ferdinand Campground Phase 2, the District 6 Law Enforcement Headquarters, which is a joint project between DNR and DOC, where DOC will be providing a sizable amount of that labor. The Clifty Inn Pool HVAC renovation, and then some improvements to forestry campgrounds at Yellowwood, Clark, and Green Sullivan. The divisions of asset management, finance, purchasing, and accounting are working towards the close of fiscal year '25. We've started to assemble all of our documentation for the 2025 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, which is a huge task to get put together. And then finally, our staffing. The department has about a 9% vacancy rate, or just about over 146 full-time staff. And then of our 1,700 intermittent or seasonal positions, we have 740 of those filled and are working to fill some additional spots. So with that,
On your plate, thank you very much, Greg. There was not a advisory council meeting, and Chairman Early is not present today, so we'll move on. You'll note that the agenda items or the dates, just a reminder, July 15th, we are planning to go at this point to Spring Mill. So at this point, TBD on time of meeting start, but a plan for, as we have done in the past, an early evening with an overnight to get to know, hopefully, people that are new and present. And with that, Stephanie, I'd like for you to introduce, there's some new people in the room. For those in the commission that don't know, Stephanie is Chief Legal Counsel. And if you wanted to introduce Whitney and Maddie, who is the what?
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They were introduced?
Yeah.
I'm reintroducing you again. How's that? You can never introduce anybody too many times. Thank you for being here. Thank you guys for being here. And Will, we'll get to you in just a little bit. Just remember, July 15th, we are going to Spring Mill. Bart is pitching in for our AOPA chairman. Bart, an AOPA update. I know you guys met recently.
Yes, sir. Thank you. AOPA met on May 12th, and we adjudicated 2 matters. We also have the luxury of having Deb Law, Commissioner Law, now in AOPA. She's an excellent attorney, and NDOT should be happy to have her working over there. Had an opportunity to work with Deb several times in the past, and she does a great job. We also received an update on House Bill 1466. I don't purport to be an expert on it. I may have to rely a little bit on Libby, but it's my understanding that it repealed Indiana Code 14-10-2-2, which created the hearing divisions in the department. And so from our standpoint at the AOPA committee, after July 1, all actions involving the department will be filed with the Office of Administrative Law Proceedings, basically a collection of ALJs. And that entity will be the ultimate authority. All items that were filed prior to July 1 will be transferred to the Office of Administrative Law Proceedings as well. And however, the Natural Resources Commission will still be the ultimate authority. Anything else on that, Libby, that I need to add on to?
I don't think so. So for cases that are currently pending, the AOPA committee will still remain involved on
Okay.
those,
Very
potentially.
well. So I just, for one, would like to thank everybody in the hearings division for all your hard work over the years, and we'll see how that shakes out, but thank you.
Thank you, Bart. Appreciate you pitching in. Will, it's your turn. He is here to give us a legislative update. Introduce yourself. I don't think we've seen you here before, so thanks for coming and appreciate what you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, as I mentioned, Will Haynes, Legislative Director for DNR, was out in D.C. for around 5 years. 4 of them was then Senator Braun. Originally from Elkhart, Indiana, so good to be back home, at least in the state. As Alan mentioned, Dr. Morrison mentioned as well, that busy legislative session just adjourned here around a month ago. In total, who's counting, I guess, but we were monitoring around 110 bills from the start of the session. 65 of those bills made it past halftime. 50 of the bills were enacted into law. That just shows the wide breadth of what DNR covers, whether it be water, prescribed burns, our agency bill, of course, administrative, corrections and criminal law or criminal code as well. So wide array that potentially what might seem at the surface won't highlight all 50 that were enacted, but just to pick 3 in particular, starting with the state budget. some key provisions in there was it transferred, certain provisions transferred the semi-quintennial commission from Department of Veterans Affairs to the DNR with a $250,000 line item with that. As many of you may know, President Trump made an announcement before he became, when he was president-elect, to establish a commission and for America's 250th birthday. And so that DNR will be heading that up for the state. As well as included language relating to the operation of DNR Carbon Sequestration Administration with inclusion of trust fund language, which will help DNR in managing and operating the carbon sequestration program in particular. So this goes in line with the pilot as well as 457 as well that was enacted this past General Assembly. 1427, DLGF, or Department of Local Government and Finance Bill. This one was a large omnibus bill, mostly encompassing public work projects, property tax exemptions, and property tax credits outside of SB1. As it relates to DNR, certain provision within the bill increased the in-house project cap from $300,000 to $600,000. This will allow the agency, and this is for all divisions at DNR, this will allow the agency to work on those projects more in-house versus having to always, or not always, but beyond that $300,000 cap, turn to an off-site contract in particular. So this will raise a cap for us to be able to, in turn, save the state money by working on projects in-house. Lastly, for our agency bill, 1616, a couple main provisions in that to highlight. Firstly, establishes a procedure for unpaid mineral interest, which adds a $10,000 cap on a 20% historic property tax credit as well, or whichever is less. This is an effort to clear a backlog within that historic property tax credit, and effort within that as well. Otherwise, establishes guidelines for a submerged land preserve within Lake Michigan, the Ohio River. So I believe there's, if my memory serves at least, 14 sunken ships and 1 sunken plane in particular. So establishes a land preserve around those vessels and or aircraft. As well as on the Senate floor before the bill was enacted, Senator Yoder included an amendment for an interim study committee for the purposes of studying the economic value of public land for recreation in Indiana. So we're just fascinated by that and then see what that bodes as well. But those are just 3 main bills to highlight. Happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Any questions for the legislative director? Thank you. Appreciate your time. I'm not aware of any items to refer to the Natural Resources Advisory Council, so we'll move to the heart of our agenda, agenda item 5. Before I begin, I wanted to thank those that are here live streaming today, and if there's any public comments or questions, those are being monitored as the meeting progresses into this part. But I will invite Ron, Director of Nature Preserves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Ron Helmick. I'm the Director of the Division of Nature Preserves. I'm here for the consideration of the dedication of Crooked Lake Addition Nature Preserve in Noble County. This proposed nature preserve is located in Noble County, approximately 6.5 miles north of Columbia City. It will protect 21.69 acres and is located within the Indiana's Northern Lakes Natural Region. This preserve adds to the current protection of the undeveloped shoreline at one of Indiana's cleanest and deepest lakes. The addition adds to the forested slopes, which are dominated by beech, sugar maple, shagbark hickory, red oak, sassafras, and white oak. The understory consists of sugar maple, ironwood, beech, flowering dogwood. This site has an abundance of spring ephemeral wildflowers. Birds and waterfowl common to the area are great blue herons, green herons, wood ducks, kingfishers, owls, and hawks. White-tailed deer, squirrels, and raccoons take refuge in the woods. Muskrats and beaver are found along the shore. This nature preserve is an important addition to the Crooked Lake Nature Preserve and to the watershed and water quality of Crooked Lake. This is a lake that is only one of the few in Indiana that still support populations of the cisco, a fish species of special concern. Indiana University previously owned a research station that was located on site, as well as a small campground for workers. It has since been removed. It is owned by the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. The Division of Nature Preserves recommends dedication of this site as a state nature preserve.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? If not, is there a motion to accept the director's proposed dedication of the Crooked Lake Addition as presented? It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't ever miss a meeting again. We missed you last time.
All right.
Agenda item 6, we'll move to State Parks. Request for preliminary adoption to add 312 IAC 9-1-8.5, defining the term harvest per effort, and to add rules to 312 IAC 9-2-18 regarding scheduled deer hunting in designated areas for population management. I invite Anthony Sipes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Anthony Sipes. I'm the Natural Resources Manager for DNR Division of State Parks. Here to describe the consideration for request of the preliminary adoption of the rules you just read. I'll give you a little bit of background information. In layman's terms, these are the rules that authorize the state park deer management hunts. Prior to the 90s, there was no hunting in Indiana state parks. Due to the damage that we saw occurring to the plants and ecology of those locations, we began hunting in 1993. And from 1993 until 2022, those hunts were authorized via an emergency rule. After the passage of House Enrolled Act 1623, that mechanism for authorizing the hunts went away. Last year, we utilized the interim rule process for the hunts. And this year, we're looking for the adoption of a permanent rule that would permanently authorize those hunts going forward. The rule essentially describes who may participate in the hunts. Those who are 18 by the first day of the hunt and possess a valid Indiana deer license or one of the lifetime comprehensive licenses. The rule describes the application process, applying in parties of up to 3 through an online process of a random draw. The rule describes how many will participate in a hunt based on the acreage of the property and the types of equipment being used. We describe the circumstances by which we determine whether we're using firearms or archery based on residences, the size of the property, things like that. The rule describes how we will add parks to be hunted in the future if we bring on new parks or add additional state parks. Looking at changes in plant species composition and impacts to the ecology, we can add additional properties to the hunts. The rule also describes the rules of the hunt itself, what types of equipment may be used, the types of safety equipment required to be worn, whether or not ground blinds, tree stands can be used, things like that. Establishes the bag limit of up to 3 deer for each hunt, one of which may be antlered or 3 antlerless. Additionally, it describes the important decision-making criteria by which we decide which hunts or which properties will be included in a subsequent year of hunting. That was the first rule, the definition of harvest per effort. That is the ratio of the number of deer harvested divided by the number of hunter efforts recorded. For firearms properties that fall at or below a .22 harvest per effort, they will generally rest for 1 year prior to resuming hunting in the subsequent year. For archery properties, that harvest per effort is 0.10 as a determinative mechanism of hunting in the following year. That is the rule in a nutshell. We also describe mechanisms by which we would cease hunting in the event of emergency disease considerations or things like that. By and large, if you're familiar with the hunts and what the emergency rules included in prior years, it's generally the same thing. We have added additional guidelines for some of the things that were not included in the emergency rules, again, process-wise by using the harvest per effort model and things such as that.
Any questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. Is there a motion to accept the request for preliminary adoption as presented by the presenter? It has been moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move to agenda item 7, request for preliminary adoption to add rules to 312 IAC 9-10-27 to establish the invasive carp harvest permit to allow a person to harvest invasive carp on waters of the state using gear not currently allowed in waters of the state for commercial fishing. Lene, you're already here. Thank you.
Good morning. Lene Petercheff with Division of Fish and Wildlife. This invasive carp harvest permit rule went into effect last year via an interim rule process. So this is a request for preliminary adoption of the proposed permanent rule to keep that in effect. To provide a little bit of background, invasive carp species include black, grass, silver, and bighead carp. They've become an issue throughout the Midwest, affecting our native fish populations and aquatic ecosystems. You've probably seen pictures of silver carp jumping into boats, causing some safety issues as well. This invasive carp harvest permit allows a person to use seines or gill nets to capture invasive carp species in Indiana waters that would otherwise be closed to those gear types where commercial fishing is not allowed. The permit's free of charge, and invasive carp captured under this permit can be sold. They do have to obtain approval from the division before each fishing event, fish only in approved locations, approved times, mark nets, tend to those nets through each day. Bycatch, other species that they capture outside of invasive carp have to be released immediately and reported. Gill nets and seines are not species specific, so we know there is some bycatch of other species that's expected. But there is oversight, again, like I said, and reporting requirements. And we do have staff available here today if you have any questions about the permit program and those who are involved right now. I believe there's 11 current permit holders on the interim rule process. Thank you very much.
I mean, can they be reintroduced back into Indiana waterways, or?
They cannot be released back into public waters now in Indiana. So I think there's a HACCP facility, some facilities for harvesting processing the fish to sell, right? Do you want to? Craig Jansen is our invasive carp program biologist, if you want to answer that question, but I know they're working on sale for human consumption.
Sure. Craig Jansen, invasive carp biologist here with Indiana DNR. Most of the fish that are being sold are sold to processors in Illinois and Kentucky, and typically when the fish are hauled, they're just hauled in a truck, in a crate or something like that. A lot of the harvest that we've been seeing in the lower Wabash River has been for non-human consumption products, so they're hauling them to a processor that's converting them to fish oil or protein meal and stuff like that. So,
Can you give us just kind of a ballpark with the 11 who currently are licensed, what's kind of the poundage they're reporting?
So that interim rule went into effect in August of last year, and since that time it's been, I think, just under 800,000 pounds that have been reported out of Indiana waters from those permit holders. So.
Do you expect there to be more permit requests?
We do hope so. It's very seasonal fishing in Indiana. The high waters make it very difficult. The fish spread out and just rough conditions out there. Shortly after the permit went in place, like August through October or November, it was pretty low water conditions, and those drought conditions make it hard to fish in a lot of our waters. The Wabash and the White Rivers get really low. So it's kind of a seasonal fishery, but when the fishing is good, I think the month of January and March, there was 150 to 300,000 pounds of fish harvested those months. So.
It's a mess, but thank you for doing that. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
No other questions for Lene? If not, is there a motion for a request for preliminary adoption as presented by the hearing officer? It has been moved. Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Agenda item 8, report to the Natural Resources Commission on a citizen petition to allow the use of firearms such as the nitro fire during muzzleloader hunting season. Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Shortly after we got this citizen petition earlier this year, a committee was formed, Fish and Wildlife, law enforcement, and legal. We reviewed everything, kind of looked at everything, and one thing that came to light. So first of all, I'm just going to touch on a couple key points. I know you guys have got most of the background information. The fire stick or the breech loading muzzle loader that this petition allows the charge and the powder, the primer and the powder, to be loaded from the breech end. The bullet is still loaded like a standard muzzle loader from the muzzle.
it just so happened as we got this citizen petition, the deer hunter survey was getting ready to go out, so we were able to include a few questions on that deer hunter survey to ask deer hunters how they felt about it. We had 16,000 some odd responses. 44% were neutral, 33% of them were in favor, and then we had 19% that were in varying degrees of opposed. We don't see any safety issues with the gun. In fact, it can be argued that the fire stick or this type of muzzleloader is a little bit safer because you're not loading the powder along right with the charge, and the powder stays dry. We don't see any issues with over-harvest of deer or potential for more harvest of deer, over-harvested deer from the use of these guns. They are already legal in youth season and during regular deer season, firearm season. This citizen petition is just to allow these rifles to be used during the muzzleloader season, during the same time frame that muzzleloaders are used. So with that, our recommendation is we support this citizen's petition and request that we come back to the commission with a rule proposal to allow such.
Thank you, Brad. Have you shot that gun before?
I have not. Jet Quillen was on not Jet, Andy Haggerty was on our committee, and he took it out and shot one a few times, but I have not.
Appreciate your update. Any questions? If not, is there a motion to accept Brad's report and recommended advice on this? Yeah.
Same caliber.
Same calibers.
Same caliber on the.
Yep.
Yeah, in the .5, I just looked it up on Google. Yeah. Okay.
If not, is there a motion? Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to accept the officers or the hearing officer's report on the recommended citizen petition as presented? It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know we have some guests out here that are sitting in the middle of the row. Who was going to introduce them? I think it was, there you go. Appreciate you coming, and thank you guys for coming to the commission meeting.
Thanks for having us. I'm Dan Kernahan. I'm in charge of the Division of Fish and Wildlife, Fish Management, and Aquatic Invasive Species Program. And today we brought our whole carp crew. I'm going to stand to the side here, and we'll go right down the line. We got Eric Fisher. He's our supervisor for the program. Craig Jansen. He's our aquatic or invasive carp biologist. Debbie Walter. She is our carp harvest program director. And that's one of the new positions that we just created to deal with the this harvest program, to bring all this out. So it's all new program, and it's starting out good. You already heard some of the results from it. We got Sandy Clark Kolak. She's our fish research biologist and also supervises our fish management districts 5 and 6. And we got our 2 assistant biologists for the program, Nate Hunoff and Justin Swafford.
Well,
So
we appreciate
thanks
you
again
guys.
for having us.
Thanks for coming up here. If there is no other questions or comments from the commission, I think we are adjourned, and we will get together in July at Spring Mill. Chris, do you have any updates on that? Do we need to respond or do anything? We probably should get on that.
Yep, so I know Karen has a block of rooms held off, and we'll be reaching out to confirm who's going to be able to attend and stay with us that evening.
Terrific. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Wow, that was quick.
That's easy.